How to make a multicolored gradient. So the first thing you want to do is start with, in this case, we're going to start with yellow. We're going to start with our center color. So yellow is going to be part of both the top and the bottom gradient. Now I'm adding just a little bit of white to mine because it's feeling a little bit too dark. I want the yellow to have quite a nice pop to it here. So I'm just blending in a little bit of white with my yellow. You may not need to do that if your yellow is already quite bright. Now I'm not going quite to the top and bottom, but I am covering a large area of my canvas. And I need my paint to stay wet while I add the next color. So my next color is going to be orange. Now I'm just going to paint a strip of orange across the top. There we go. Kind of clean my brush off on the top. The top color is going to be red, so it's okay if I go right to the top. Now I'm just wiping my brush down on a rag, and with a relatively clean brush, I'm going to pull that orange into the yellow. So I'm just going down bit by bit, kind of like a printer depositing ink on a page. And now I'm going back up, pulling some of the yellow into the orange. So there's my orange going back down into the yellow, yellow going into the orange, just to create that nice gradient. So I've already got a nice little blend there. So what I'm going to do is add my red to the top. So red is a very prominent color. A little bit of red can go a long way. So I don't need to put too much red on top in order to get it to blend into everything else. A little bit of red is needed, whereas a lot of yellow would be needed. If you were to do a gradient of just red and yellow, you would need far more yellow than red. All right, now because there is both yellow and red in orange, we don't have to worry about this gradient over mixing because there is going to be a nice transition between the red and the yellow that's going to happen quite naturally. So now what I'm doing is just making my making sure that my yellow paint is wet. I'm also just brightening up that yellow a little bit. It got a little bit muddy when I was doing my orange, so I'm just trying to brighten that a little bit. Mixing while my paint is still wet. Once your paint dries, you can't mix anymore. So I know my paint is wet because I just put it down. So I put a little bit of red on the corner of my brush, and I'm just going to blend it into the yellow, just like we did with the orange and yellow. So I'm going to kind of clean my brush off at the bottom here a little bit. I'm not going all the way to the bottom. I'm just going to be doing that one strip. Wipe my brush down, and I'm pulling my red into my yellow and my yellow into my red to get a little bit of a blend there. So I'm adding just a bit more yellow because, like I said before, the red really takes over. So I'm just going to pull that yellow down into the red. Now I need to make sure that my red is nice and wet when I put in my next color, which is going to be purple. So I'm just going to put a little bit of purple on my brush for now. We're just going to do a little bit of a blend to start off. And I'm adding that purple right beneath the red. Now you probably noticed I just put purple on the corner of my brush. So that can be helpful when you're doing a gradient. If you want to get a nice soft blend, just put it on the bottom corner, and then that top corner will kind of soften things up a little bit. So I need to add, what I'm going to do now is I feel like I need to go back into my yellow and blend that in. So I went back into my yellow and blended that back down. Yeah, but what I need to do now is add in more purple. So the bottom color of our gradient is actually dark blue, and it's okay if the dark blue and the purple overlap. It's even okay if the purple and the red overlap, but it is not okay if the purple and the yellow overlap. The reason for that is that if you blend yellow and purple together, you get brown. If you blend blue and yellow together, you get green. And neither of those colors are colors we want in our sunset. We want to try to keep these colors really poppy. So that means we need to separate colors that don't blend well together. So the reason that yellow and purple make brown is because yellow is a primary color and purple is a combination of two primary colors, red and blue. And if you mix all primary colors together, you get brown. All right, so now we're adding in our blue at the bottom. So we need to do this while the purple is wet. And we're going to pull that up into our red color. Now we don't want to go as high as the yellow. We need to make sure we separate that from the yellow because we don't want to create brown or green. Very important to keep that separation. Okay, now we're just going to softly blend that together. So I kind of cleaned my brush off so that there wasn't any excess paint because we don't want that purple creeping up into our yellow. And I'm just getting a nice soft blend to try to create the red to purple to blue gradient. Now, of course, if you mix blue and red together, you get purple. So we don't mind if the blue creeps all the way up to the red. That's completely fine. We're still going to get our gradient. But having that purple in there can be quite nice. All right, so that's it for making this gradient. Eventually, we're going to turn this into a lovely sunset, but that's for a different day. For more painting tutorials or art videos, please subscribe, and you can find me on Instagram at Creations by Kendra.